Shalom Aleichem Rabotai. We are pre-recording the Mishnayot for Rosh Hashanah, and we are in the first parak of Challah at Mishnah Het. Isat haklavim, dough for the dogs. Rabotai, this is dog food. The Bartner explains it is made of kemach, so it's made of flour, but morsan harbe moravbo. There's a lot of morsan, there's a lot of bran. So back then, nobody ate the bran. No one had whole wheat bread. They threw out the bran, or they would use it for animals or for dog food. So they'd mix all this bran back into the dough to make dog food. Isat haklavim. So the Mishnah is machalek. Bizman she'roim ochlim mimena, when the shepherds would eat from it, as in there's not too much bran. We understand there's bran in it because it's dog food, but there's not so much bran. It's still quite a lot like bread. Chayevet bechala. Therefore, it's chayev to separate challah from this dough. And also, the Mishnah adds more halachot regarding bread. Ume'arvin ba. You can make an eruv with it. This is talking about an eruv hatzerot, where all of the residents in one chatzer, there's a number of houses or apartments opening to one chatzer. They combine bread together, they put it in one of the apartments that opens to the chatzer, and they make they make it into a shared reshut so they can carry there on Shabbat. See the 7th parak of Eruvin there for details. Mishganiz umishtatfen bo. You can also do a shituf, which is like a partnership there, referring to a shituf mavuot. When there's one mavui, an alleyway, which is like a small, like a dead-end street, which has a number of chatzerot opening to it, so they could actually combine the mavui, similar to, like we said above, by the chatzerot. They could make a partnership with the mavui as well, with the alleyways. People could carry on Shabbat in that reshut, and you had to use bread for the eruv and for the shituf, so they could use this kind of bread with it because it's still edible for human beings. It's not so much bran in it. And the Mishnah continues, Mevarchin aleha, and you make a bracha on it. You make a bracha of hamotzi lechem in aretz, it's still lechem. Umizamnin aleha, and if 3 shepherds ate together, they would make a zimun, rabosai nevareich, v'naseit b'yom tov, and it could be baked on Yom Tov. Amazing, Rabotai. This is the Mishnah for the first day of Yom Tov, for the first Yom Tov of the year, and we are mentioning, Baruch Hashem, baking on Yom Tov. The Bartner here explains, challah is called Reshit Arisotechem. When it's yours, when it's for human consumption, it's chayev and challah, and we know the heter of ochel nefesh, of eating for human consumption, it's only for human consumption. You cannot bake dog food or cat food or the like on Yom Tov, but you could bake for human consumption for yourself and your guests that might arrive on Yom Tov. And the Mishnah wraps up this list, V'yotze ba adam yedei chovato b'Pesach. And this bread could be used, assuming it's matzah and not chametz, this bread with extra bran, which is normally given to dogs, could be used to be yotze on Pesach. So if the shepherd's out there in the wilderness shepherding, and it's the first night of Pesach, and he has this matzah-dik dog food bread, he could use it as long as it's still fit for human consumption. Now the Mishnah lists the opposite case. If there's way too much bran, it's very coarse, so much bran, it's not considered bread, so you don't have to take challah. You cannot use it for an eruv, it's not called bread. You can't make a sheet of mavuot with it either. And you don't make a bracha on it. Now you don't make a bracha of hamotzi on it. However, the Tiferet Yisrael brings, you do say shahakol, because lemaisa at the end of the day, it is food. It's just food that was intended for dogs and is not normally eaten by human beings. So the bracha is shahakol. We see this in Hilchot Brachot. There are some times when something is not really a normal food. It's not normally eaten, but it could be eaten, that sometimes it gets a shahakol instead of the normal bracha. Mishnah continues, Ein mizamnin aleha, there's no zimun on it. Ve'eino naset b'yom tov, it cannot be baked on Yom Tov, because if it's so much bran, it's animal food, it's not human food. Ein adam yotze ba yedei chovato b'Pesach, and he can't be yotze on Pesach because it needs to be lechem oni. The pasuk calls it lechem oni, the bread of affliction. And if it's not bread, it's really dog food, then you can't be yotze matzah. Ben kach or ben kach, in either event, whether there's a little bit of bran and it's still okay for humans, or there's way too much bran and it's really dog food, mitam'a tumat ochlin. It is mitame like food. It can get ritual impurity and transfer ritual impurity. And the reason is, at the end of the day, if somebody's really starving and he's out in the field, there's nothing else to eat, he will go ahead and eat this dog bread, this isat klavim, even though it's full of bran and it's not really called a lechem, and it gets a shehakol, he will eat it lamaisa, so it can get ritual impurity. Mishnah Tes, Challah v'Terumah. Challah, as we've said before, is a form of truma. Now, this Mishnah is going to tell us the similarities. So, Challah v'Terumah, Hayavin alehem mita v'chomesh. A non-Kohen who eats them is chayav mita b'dei shemaim lo aleinu, and has to pay back the value plus a chomesh, plus basically a tax of 1/5, though we've explained in truma that that's really 1/5 of the total, or 1/4 in addition to the original value. The asurim lazarim, it's forbidden to be consumed by non-kohanim, or people who are not members of the household of kohanim. Vehem nichsei kohen, they do belong, they are the personal property of the kohen, meaning he could sell it or he could use it to be mekadosh isha, to get married with, they have value to him. Olin be'echad meya, and they go up in 101. We've explained in detail when we learned about Masechet Truma that it means it's batel in 100 parts. If one seya of Truma falls into 100 seya of Chulin, it's batel, technically yes, but this Lashon Olin means you have to scoop out one seya and give it to the Kohen, even though it's technically batel, it's technically not there, you still have to fulfill the mitzvah of giving to Kohen. So use Lashon Olin, you scoop out one seya and give it to the Kohen anyway, even though the rest of it is mutter. We don't consider it a mixture of Truma and Chulin. The Mishnah continues, Ta'unin or chitzat yadayim, v'harav shemesh, and it needs hand washing and waiting for the shemesh. And the hand washing we're familiar with. We all do netilat yadayim, and we do it as a zecher, as a reminder that the kohanim are all going to have to wash their hands before they eat truma and challah, which is a species of truma. So all of us for thousands of years are washing our hands, making a bracha, so that we remind the kohanim to always wash their hands before their truma and challah. So it's an amazing thing. We see how chashuv kohanim are, that all of us are doing this as a reminder for them. Ha'arav shemesh, we might remember from the first Mishnah in Shas, the first Mishnah in Brachot, that we say that a Kohen who was Tameh, who touched the sheretz that day, he goes to the mikveh, and then after Ha'arav shemesh, after sunset, he can eat his truma for dinner. And that's also the first time of Kriyat Shema. That's why it's in the first Mishnah in Shas. Here the Mishnah continues, Einon netolin minatar latame, and we do not separate truma or challah from something that's pure, that's not contaminated, into something that's impure. And the reason is derabanan, because you're not going to put them close enough together, because the Mishnah explains, Ela mina mukaf mina davar gamor. You take it from the mukaf, that means something right next door. So when you separate challah, yes, you can separate challah from two separate bowls, but they should be right next to each other and perhaps covered with the same towel. Some poskim say so that they're combined. The mina mukaf means they're from something that's touching, adjacent, close together. And also we only take challah and truma from something that's gamor, that's finished. In the case of challah, you've kneaded it into a dough. And in the case of truma, as we explained in that masechta, it's a finished product. It's been piled up. We have various forms of finishing for various produce. Chazak Aruch, Shkoyach Rabotai, Ketiva Chatima Tova.